Commission is now in session. For those of you who haven't signed this, it's our lifeblood, so Margie, if you'll take it and make sure everybody has, I appreciate it.
I have.
You have it? Mr. Smoot, has the agenda been posted?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we managed to do that last week.
Okay. And roll call.
Gazelle.
Here.
Bosworth. Callahan.
Here.
Chia.
Here.
Drysky. Present. Engelhardt is resigned. Duncan is excused. Frieden.
Here.
Luders.
Here.
Levitt.
Here.
McLaughlin.
Here.
Miller is excused. Sherman.
Here.
Sisson. Here. Spicer.
Here.
Tavil.
Here.
And Tyler.
Here.
The roll's been called.
Thank you, Margie, appreciate it. Approval of minutes from April 2nd. Entertain a motion. Moved. Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Approved, passes. We now move to the public comment section. Anybody who would like to speak for 3 minutes within the purview of this commission, has the right to do that, and we will be glad to entertain anything that you have to say. Seeing nobody ready to jump up and jump down our throats, I guess we can move forward. First action, well, under introductions, I was going to introduce and say goodbye to Bert Engelhardt. Bert, we did invite him to come back. Bert has moved, lost his position on the commission, and will have a replacement. But I did ask him to come back, so he may come back for June because we have 2 or 3 other retiring members at that point. Bert served us very well, and I just wanted to sort of thank him in public and put that in the record if we can, Margie. All right, action items, terminal hardening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we did send you a pretty exhaustive report on this particular item with some black and white pictures which you could hardly read. I apologize, I've got you some color ones today that you'll be able to see. What we'd like to do is spend a few minutes talking about some changes to the terminal building. As you recall, we had a blast analysis done almost a year ago now, and there were several projects outlined in it. The first one was the rental car lot, which we've completed. The second one was the roadway project, which we are in the midst of. And the last one was what's lovingly called terminal hardening, which is basically the initial analysis of it was to determine ways of strengthening the structure itself to be able to withstand the effects of a blast if one were to occur. And as we got into that, one of the things that it said we needed to do was move the roadway away from the front of the building and do something about our glass and do something about the major columns in the building. We put together the design team and had some preliminary discussions with them and started talking about not only the moving of the road, but the dealing with the glass in the front of the building. And we asked that the blast analysis company, Wiedlinger, do a second analysis that really focused on the front of that building. And what they discovered in a very close analysis of that, assuming that the road is moved out, is that even in the smallest blast scenario of a vehicle bomb, because of the huge overhang that we have on the front of that building, besides being an excellent shade device to keep the sun out during the summer, it's also a heck of a deflecting device to force the energy of a blast right into the middle of the building. And when they did an analysis of it and looked at it, they determined that any kind of a blast that occurred even out on the straightened road further from the building would have such an impact that it would basically destroy about 9/10 of the lobby area. And the energy of that blast would go into the lobby and have an uplifting force and just tear the living heck out of the building. So we said, okay, well, what happens if we change the glass? And if they just change the glass and leave it where it is and put in a new technology class, which costs about $200 a square foot to put in, but can absorb some of the energy from a blast, it still breaks or collapses, but it doesn't shatter and go into shards like the existing glass. What they discovered that still doesn't help because of the darn overhang. And so, you know, then the options are, well, what do? Cut the overhang off? Well, it's a nice roof, we don't want to necessarily do that. And then the other concern we have is, you all know how crowded our lobby is now with the checkpoint. We're gonna have to expand that checkpoint further for additional throughput on it. It's gonna make the lobby even more crowded. So we said, well, what happens if we push that glass line out to try to get rid of the overhang? And lo and behold, even though we're moving the roadway and now we're chasing the road with the lobby, as we get closer to the roadway with that, if we use the new technology glass, incorporate some blast walls, and do a few other little tricks within the building, we're able to develop a building that has a much bigger lobby and can actually do a much better job of withstanding the blast. And if you look at the drawings, they're over on that wall and they're over on this wall too. This one here is kind of hard to figure out what we're doing, but basically we took the roof off the building and said, what's the wall structure look like? This is the existing wall structure. You can see the little diamond-shaped area, which is our lobby currently. If we pushed that lobby out to this column line, which is the front columns on the building, you end up with a much bigger elongated lobby. You also end up with these two triangular spaces, which will allow us to expand floor space as well as upstairs office space into that. And the other thing that it does do, one of the other things that the building needs because of this blast analysis is some substantial increase in lateral support as far as its ability to not sway. And that needs to be introduced in the front area, and that can be introduced in these two triangular areas. It makes things kind of interesting. If you look at this particular drawing, you can see this is from the inside of the lobby looking up, and you can see the kind of structural members that will actually have to be introduced in there in order to provide the lateral support. A lot of that will be visible when we're done. So it will become part of the structure itself in order to physically provide that lateral support. These are a couple of other drawings that we had that are just computer renditions of what it might look like if we push that lobby out. We know we have to straighten out the street here and develop some kind of a large plaza in front of it. We're looking at some kind of a possible shading device in front of it. This is what it might look like from down the street. Well, the first question you might have is, well, we're getting rid of the overhang. Why on earth do we want to put a big device out in front of it that builds another overhang again? Well, by using the same material that we've utilized on our existing roof, as well as our inspection plaza, it is a fabric material that has some elasticity to it, and Weidlinger is in the process of developing for the Pentagon a new porte-cochere area by their building for dropping off of buses and taxis and all the passengers and people that move through the Pentagon. And they're building it entirely out of that fabric roof because of its ability to expand, hang on to the energy from the blast, and then come back into its normal position. If it were to be torn apart, it goes into pieces of fabric, and yeah, you might get slapped in the face with it, but it wouldn't be like being hit in the face with a piece of steel. That's our terminal hardening story. We think that since it is a security program that we're working on, it will have some high visibility as far as availability of grant funds. The grant that we are about to receive, which is this year's current entitlements and some discretionary money, will have about $600,000 of it to begin the design process of straightening the road, doing the plaza, doing the building, whatever we end up doing. So we have the ability to begin the process of designing this. What we would like to do is get that process started, utilize the same subcommittee that we utilized before on designing the roadway, and including the planning commission and city council members, so we have that same cross-section in there as we work through the process to try to design this thing so that we can go ahead and proceed with it. At the same time, we'll be pursuing the dollars. We're probably talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million to do this project. Probably $1 million for the roadway, $1.5 million for the plaza, and the rest dealing with the building itself. So there is money raising that we have to do, and we'll continue to work through that process, but it's the next logical step in completing what the last analysis told us we need to be working on. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
Motion first.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second. Questions?
Now, what type of glass are we talking about? Is this comparable to what they use in automobile windows?
Well, I guess I'm not educated enough on it right now to be able to tell you that. All I can tell you is that it is been developed to specifically withstand blasts, not in the arena of automobiles, but in the arena of buildings. It's been designed for some of the new embassies and things that are being built, and it is a very tough puppy. We will get more information and share it with you. We're expecting that there's a couple of manufacturers that I think when they see the amount of square footage in the front of our built-in glass, they will be courting us, so I would assume.
Does it crumble like auto glass does, or does it withstand the blast?
It actually stays together and warps itself and absorbs a lot of the blast. And eventually it does go into pieces. I don't know exactly how it works, but we'll see if we can get some video and some other stuff to share with you so you can see exactly how it works.
Bill?
Why don't at the same time we start minimizing the use of the glass?
Well, we are. If we look closely at it, basically instead of having that great big entire sweep of glass all the way around there, the only glass we're gonna have to do is the two primary panels right out in front of the building, because those dark brown areas that you can see on the drawings are actually structural glass walls that would normally have been glass. So yes, we will minimize the glass as best we can.
Michael?
This might be patently obvious, but I know sometimes when you design for a certain eventuality, you might be compromising another. Earthquake, is that going a different direction than the overall structure?
No, actually, the lateral support additions that we put into the building to help defend the blast will actually help upgrade the building itself seismically.
Just one comment and a question. The sun in the environment here is so severe that I've seen just in being in the building industry, things that are spec'd to work well are really stressed here. So I'd like the contractors or those who are proposing this glass to demonstrate to your satisfaction that this will work fine in the afternoon sun of the summer. It's not going to discolor or change characteristics. I mean, that's going to be a real test. And the second thing too is that I think obviously shade is needed. We all agree with that. And the proposal you're thinking about aesthetically looks like it would tie the airport together with that fabric. But there are alternatives too, as you're probably aware. You could do something with louvers on the inside of the glass, that could open up during the day when the morning sun is there and close up in the afternoon. So I think your designer should be looking at those things too, if he's not already.
Ken?
Years ago, they used to have a technology where there was a film that they put on the inside of the glass to keep it from sharding and things like that. Is that part of this analysis also?
Well, the original blast analysis told us that was the quickest and dirtiest solution we could use as far as with our existing glass. We did nothing else was to put the film on the inside that 3M and 2 or 3 other manufacturers made. Like I said, I don't know enough about this technology to be able to answer that question for you. We will find more information before you want it.
Would that be something we do on an interim basis while we're designing and getting ready? In theory, you could have a blast tomorrow and the day after.
That's true. It's just a question of.
No, they gotta wait till we get the roadway strip.
Al, as you know, I've always had this major concern with earthquakes and that sharding of that glass out there. Does this restructure, give us this lateral support, does that put the building in better shape for earthquakes?
Much better.
Because that's seriously just as much a problem as a bomb blast, frankly.
I think it's more.
In fact, it may be more.
Probably more.
Yeah, right. Right, because I think that's really important to try and shore this building up to the point where we don't have that tremendous potential for danger.
But in writing our grant application, it's purely a
It's all for price, okay, got it. Any other questions?
One other question, what is the timeframe we're looking at for this project?
This year?
2 years, 3 years?
I would anticipate that you'll be building this not this summer, but next summer,
Great.
and it'll take 8.
And games.
Well, I mean, this one won't be that difficult because, well, it'll be difficult, but the existing roof is already there. A lot of the underground structure is in place, so, you know, it's not like you're starting from scratch. So it's probably 8, 9 months of construction.
It kind of will interrupt regular airport traffic.
Well, it will, we won't say interrupt, it will cause things to be pushed around to different places, but we, if you remember when we remodeled this building completely and totally gutted it, we still managed to operate. This won't be nearly as harsh as that situation was. I mean, obviously, the front area right in front of the terminal building will be obstructed, but the lobby itself should not be.
Any more questions?
What's the potential for the grants to cover all the money that's gonna be spent on this?
Not good. The best we'll be able to do is 90% of it, and some of that, because of the nature of what we're putting out in the plaza, we will have to pay for ourselves because some of the landscape materials are not eligible where others may be.
So on a $5 million project, you're estimating maybe $500,000 to $1 million that we have to.
We're gonna come up with $1 million ourselves probably.
Seeing no further questions, move the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Airport master plan. This baby is finally birthed.
One of the things we need to do as this begins to move through the hearing processes with the other commission, that being the planning commission and eventually the city council for hearing here in the next 6 weeks probably, is the commission itself has to actually accept this master plan. And so I've redistributed to you a copy of the summary brochure again, primarily as a summary to you. As compared to the last master plan where we were proposing new buildings, new runways, new everything, and it turned to be quite a controversial program when we brought it forward. This particular effort is one of basically maintaining the structures that we have, maintaining the plan that we have, doing some minor improvements to the airfield, doing the roadway improvements that we're doing now, doing some parking improvements in the future, and eventually doing some more terminal expansion, all of which have been previously covered in previous master plans. So this update is basically an update of that to carry us into the next 20-year period. Again, master plans are usually good for 5 to 7 years, and then you're expected to update them in order to keep your projects up to date with technology. I mean, Lord knows in the last 3 years, the focus on what we've spent our dollars on changed dramatically. So again, we have gone through this exhaustive process. Several of you have been through the exhaustive process by being on the committee and attending all the meetings. We did have 5 public workshops on this, where the folks were invited to give input during the process. We did have a large committee of aviation users that were part of the master planning process also. And the result of that is this particular plan, which calls for almost $150 million of improvements at the airport over the next 20 years. Probably the most important are the next 5 years. After that, you know, your plan starts to become a little bit out of date. The only major property acquisition that is proposed in here at all is the 20-some acres of property that's up on the northeast corner of the airport on Vistachino, and that's very carefully crafted in here. That is tribal, an Indian owns that piece of property, and we've made it very clear in here that the only way we will consider acquiring that property is if it is through a voluntary sale to the airport. We will not be condemning that property, and the plan is very clear about that, because the tribe is very sensitive about the airport condemning any property. At one time, this particular tribal member was interested in selling the property, and if we ever get to the point where we have some money again, we may be interested in buying it.
Now, is this an individual owns it or is the whole tribe own it?
An individual.
Mr. Chairman, I move that this commission accept the airport master plan and recommend its approval by the city council.
Second. Moved and seconded, discussion? Ken? No discussion? I had just one question now. We've gotten all the steps done, we've got the environmental, and we're down ready to take it to the city council, is that correct?
Well, the environmental hearings will be on May 28th before the planning commission. Planning commission is actually having a study session today where they're just kind of going through the plan and the environmental documents on the 28th. And then it will move to council sometime, probably the second meeting in June.
Great.
Will be the actual public hearing. At that point, once they adopt it, then we ship it off to the FAA and they do their magic with it for a while.
Sit on it. Okay.
For you, one more.
Sure, Bill.
Are there any concerns on our environmental report that the planning?
Now, as a matter of fact, after the completion of the initial study and the looking at it of the environmental consultants, they are recommending the planning commission mitigated negative declaration and with no major impacts whatsoever.
Very good.
They did do an update of the noise study, which shows the footprint actually getting smaller, and did a new air quality study and a traffic study, all the things that they have to do, and all of them led them to the mitigated negative declaration.
Great. Any other comments?
Question, after this is finally saucered and glowed and approved by everybody, will the copies be available to the commission and or our signs or
Yes.
successors?
Yes, if you want, we got thousands of these, which we'll start distributing. And
I
then
mean the real
the
thing.
real document, as soon as the council actually adopts it, we will have a final printing. Right now, we've got draft all over the documents we have because they are, and the council takes final action. But yes, once it's finally printed, we will have copies available for the commission as well as the public, should they wish to acquire it from us.
Questions called for. All those in favor? Aye. Those who oppose? Passes. Customs and Border Protection Memorandum of Agreement. Long words.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Commission, good morning. The Bureau of Customs and Border Protection became an official agency in March 1, 2003, combining employees from the Department of Agriculture, Immigration and Naturalization, Border Patrol, and U.S. Customs Service. What that means to us is they want to sign a new agreement. So previously we had an agreement, a memorandum agreement that was signed in 1996. Some of you were here when that happened, which basically allowed us to have a user fee status with the U.S. Customs Service at the time, now the Border Customs and Border Protection. As you can see, they still have several other duties in the second paragraph, but primarily, for our reasons, they're here for inspectional services for general aviation and corporate aircraft, and we've also been told that they'll be doing more on-site inspectional services for the pre-cleared flights from Canada. We'll see more of that activity happening, which will lead into the second report that I'll talk to you about in a moment. But before you is the new memorandum of agreement that we're seeking your recommendation on. The three things that are different basically from the previous memorandum are, one, the inspectional cost for the inspector has gone up substantially. The initial cost for us was around $74,000, so now around $115,000. We've also are going to be required to upgrade their equipment. It's called ADP equipment. It's basically a frame relay circuit and several other high-tech communication type devices, which are all part of the new enhanced security mission as part of the Department of Homeland Security. And one other pretty important item is that in this particular agreement, during an emergency situation or a national security issue, they could actually pull out an inspector and move him to a different location. This gives them the right to do that. So those are the three primary changes from the previous memorandum of agreement. It is important that we sign this. They are sending this out to all airports, user-fee airports, to sign, and we recommend that you approve it.
Okay. Motion?
So moved.
Bill? Second. Second. Any questions? Robert?
Barry, on the first page, the middle paragraph, it says define insufficient to justify the availability of unreimbursable inspection services. What does that mean in English?
Okay, it was the first page?
First page, right in the middle paragraph, last line of it.
That is basically a definition of one of the three criteria, whether or not you become a port of entry or a user fee airport. We do not meet the determination that we have enough traffic to become a port of entry, so we're insufficient in terms of getting that reimbursement that they would provide.
Instead of them paying for it.
Instead of them paying
we
for
pay
it, correct.
But the potential is there for us to expand and then have them back take over.
That's correct, and I'm going to brief you more on that in just a moment.
On the second page, towards the bottom, it says weekly work schedule. Seems to me they really wanted to say Monday through Friday.
Yes, I caught that last night. I appreciate you catching that also. We've got one or two other little items to add to this before we finally get it signed.
And then on page 5, it says service date will be determined by the customs people. Unilaterally, or we gotta, we're gonna do it tomorrow and we gotta jump.
Welcome to your government action.
Is this basically pro forma that all the airports are
That's correct.
If you want to have the service, you'll sign it.
signing?
Ken?
Glad we get that option.
I got the feeling that this is a CPFL type of contract. In other words, they decide what they're gonna do, and they decide what it's gonna cost and they're gonna pay. So the number in here is not really a hard number, it's a soft number. Do we have any idea based on the past? I know it's a new agency, but do we have any idea what additional money it's gonna cost us?
Yes, we do. Actually, our budget has gone up pretty good over the last year in terms of the costs. Last year, we had about $130,000 budgeted. This year, we're going to have about $180,000 budgeted, mainly due to the increased inspectional service costs and the cost for the equipment, which is actually a one-time cost with ongoing maintenance costs. That equipment cost with the maintenance is going to be around $25,000.
Dennis, Gary?
Do you have statistics based on last year of usage and what's the return on investment?
I'm glad you asked that question. I actually made these handouts for you if you want to take a look at them.
Thank you, Gary.
I wasn't gonna pass them out, Mr. S.
We needed that extra handout.
We're still not breaking even on the total cost for the operation. We are, once we get past this year in terms of the new memorandum agreement and the next report I'll talk to you about, we're going to look at possibly increasing the inspectional fees to try to reduce that shortfall. But you can see on this handout, on the graph, as well on the second page, the number of operations. 2001 was actually our best year in this 4-year summary. This year we're pretty much in line, although we're a little down in April compared to 2001 in terms of the total operations. When you get it on the second page, it's actually a better summary of what's happening. And you can see the breakdown between Signature and Millionaire in terms of the total operations. Last year, or 2002, we had 218 total operations. And previously, in 2001, 225.
The operation is a plane?
That's correct. That's an actual aircraft that's been inspected.
That leads into my question. What's our mechanism for collecting these fees?
We have a user fee schedule and our comprehensive fee schedule based on the size of aircraft. Small aircraft for $45 per hour, and the heaviest aircraft over 300,000 pounds maximum takeoff would be $350 per arrival.
Per
arrival.
Per operation?
Yes.
Per airplane?
Per airplane. And if there's overtime after the outside of the 5 p.m. hours, they would pay for that as well.
So that's what we're looking at offset. We've got a fixed cost, so to speak, of about $115,000 a year.
Actually, that's just the fixed cost for the customs inspector only. That doesn't include the other costs related to the total operation of that department. which is around $180,000 this year.
So do we have flexibility in setting the fee, or is that restricted by some regulation?
We have flexibility. We set these fees after, in '96, they have not been raised since then. At this point, we are not looking to do that until we iron out a few other issues that we've been working with Customs on. But it is something we want to entertain to try to increase them, and we do have that flexibility.
So roughly, how much of a shortfall do you think we'll experience this year?
This year, we'll experience probably about half of the budget.
Okay, so 50 grand or 50
Right,
grand?
right. We've averaged between $50,000 and $60,000 each year.
So in a way, you could think of that as almost a marketing expense in order to attract aircraft that needs custom services in here.
That's
And as
correct.
that volume builds, we'll narrow the gap.
That's
Is that the
correct.
idea?
That's correct, and it's very important that we have that service to offer, so that as we continue to expand, hopefully one day a full federal inspection service facility, we haven't lost any ground.
In fact, Larry, you may remember until we had this, we worked very hard with Sonny Bono at the time. Most flights had to clear in Vegas or somewhere else and then come to Palm Springs, which was a, $3,000 gas bill and time bill. So they were very pleased that we had this here. I think the cost can be adjusted.
Most of these are Canadian flights.
No, there's a lot of corporate jet. A lot of people come in from Mexico. Yes, there's some what is Canadair 2,000, 3,000, whatever they are. But there's just a lot of traffic that comes from outside the United States that wants to come to Palm Springs, and they have to clear somewhere. And that's why we got started on this, with the anticipation that we'd get good at it, get better at it, and eventually build a big customs facility.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, Eric Affeldt,
Oh, hi,
here.
Eric.
Just to add one thing, in order, what we're trying to do to continue to promote international business here, we'll be going to the Canadian Aviation Association meeting this summer, which we do every summer, and promote Palm Springs and try to get people to come down here. So we're spending money along with you to try to get these people to come down here and visit.
This is a tourist city about tourism, so anything we can do to get people to come here, that's what we have to do.
One question on, what is the, you mentioned Las Vegas a few years ago. Does Ontario have this now? What are their fees, or what's the clearance?
Ontario do.
Ontario does
I
not
think
have.
it's Vegas. Is it supposed to be?
Vegas is
San Diego.
San Diego.
Well, for general aviation, it's Calexico.
Calexico, that's correct.
What's the mechanism for assessing these fees and collecting them? Or does not?
The FBO does.
Well, we did a survey when we initially established these fees of all the other uses of the airports. That's the mechanism we used to establish these fees. That's basically what we would do again, which we have actually started, and we are still in line basically with these fees with the other use fee airports. So what we really need to do is increase our marketing efforts to try to get more people here so that we're.
And logically, the others will have to increase theirs too, because they're going to get the same. We got a better price for you now. And so I'm sure everybody will be looking at their fees.
Right.
Any other discussion?
This is covering one person. What happens, what's the mechanism for somebody coming in outside of normal hours? Do you have to call somebody back to do that?
They have a number that you call have to prearrange any scheduled
It's
time.
gotta be pre-arranged.
That's correct.
If he averages one a day, he gets a lot of golf time.
He has done a few other things. I mean, he does
other things.
He does some other customs clearing that's
That's
not
correct.
directly airport related.
Right,
You
right.
better not show up during his golf time, right?
When they build that course across the street.
Jerry, I had one question on the technical stuff that we have to provide. Is any of that related to the TSA technical stuff, and could we piggyback on it, or could we borrow, or use something so we cut our costs down?
Yes and no. It's all related in terms of the Department of Homeland Security, and there has been an effort to try to have the agencies kind of work together closer, and they think they will be doing that in the future more. But the equipment that this was referring to is basically bringing all the user fees up to the same level as the FIS facilities in terms of the type of communication equipment they have with their headquarters, so that they can get their intel quicker, and basically it's just something they've been wanting to do for a number of years, and they've decided this is the time.
Great time. Well, it's something we always want to keep in mind, because if we're going to duplicate something, that's stupid. So whatever we can do to make it work, let's do it. Okay, any more discussion? If not, question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Passes. Customs Border Protection General Aviation Processing User Fee Facility.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As we began the process of the Southerly Access Roadway Reconfiguration Project, which is a mouthful, we invited the Customs Port Director from LAX. Actually, she was coming out for a visit already and wanted to meet with us. And we met with her and her Chief Inspector, as well as our inspector here, to discuss the relocation of their existing facility, which has always been off the Mid Valley Roadway there, and it's basically been housed in a trailer. When they came out and saw the facility, they realized that this facility was no longer meeting the technical standards which are attached, as you can see, has been redefined by the Border and Customs Protection. The Port Director sent us a letter indicating that and requested that we provide an alternative which would meet that standard. There are various things in that handout that you'll see that this particular facility does not have the capability of doing. One, primarily, is that aircraft cannot pull up to this facility, which is going to be actually a major change in the way we do business here. The people that are going to get clearance or inspectional services now will have to actually go to a facility to have those inspection services done on site there. Primarily in the name of security and the fact that if you had a issue where you needed to isolate a person or baggage, you need room to do that. You also need inspection tables, etc., which are called out in this particular scenario. He does not have that now. Presently, he goes to both FBOs. We're hoping to transition that slowly, as the FBOs are going to be impacted by this as well, into a new facility. And there are several other issues related to meeting this standard. We looked extensively throughout the airport terminal to see if we could come up with something inside either the terminal or the concourse that would give both general public access as well as allow general aviation to pull up and meet the design criteria of the facility. Unfortunately, we just could not come to any conclusion or any agreement on a place inside the terminal building. Presently, he is operating out of another trailer temporarily, and he has a public office which is located down by our information desk, where if anyone, the general public, came in, they can reach him right there and he'll come up and meet them. But we've been given basically a deadline from the Port Director between October and November to have some type of plan in place which will establish our plan on what we're going to do for creating this new facility. So we are actually coming to you now as the commission who represent the other valley cities to let you know that the cost of such facility we are estimating to be around $2.5 to $3 million, which would include approximately about a 5,000 square foot building, ramp space for aircraft, of course all the utilities, etc., that go into that facility, and parking space. On the very back page you can see some proposed layouts that we showed the Port Director of where we could actually place a facility to accommodate those needs. We're still looking at other options. We're not completely exhausted everything, but right now we have nothing that we can bring to you other than the fact that if we don't establish a facility, or at least a plan for a facility in the near future, we could jeopardize our user fee status. I showed you that that has happened already in Great Falls, Montana. It's happening at other airports that are user fees. It's all part of the Department of Homeland Security and the National Security Mission of the Borders and Customs Protection to increase their visibility as well as bring up all the facilities to the standard that they now enhanced. over the previous standard that they had. So we're actually hoping that the commission will direct us to seek a resolution from our city council to go to the other valley cities, the FBOs, and the users to seek additional funding to try to pay for such a facility. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Let me just add a couple of things to what Barry's told you also. And one of the reasons why we're talking about looking for other funding sources is this particular facility, because of the way our agreements are structured with the airlines, we've been able to continue to subsidize the operation because of the dollars that we collect from general aviation that come to the airport. And the airlines have not objected. However, the airlines have a clause in their contract that prohibits the airport from spending its dollars to develop a facility or pay for the operational costs of such facility. So in order for us to do this, we're going to have to find some funds from somewhere else. And I don't have that fully defined yet. This whole thing has come upon us quickly. I mean, what was going to be a rather simple relocation of the customs trailer, upgrading that facility, putting in signage all over the airport, which would have been a nice enhancement for customs, has turned into an absolute nightmare for us. And then just unilaterally saying, we're sorry, the facility doesn't work anymore. And if you don't fix it, you won't have us here. And so, you know, we've invested a lot of money in keeping customs here, and the major reason for doing that, despite bringing general aviation to make it easier for them, is it gets us the designation. I mean, we have the designation as port of entry. That is very difficult to get. It took us probably 7 years to get that designation. And we don't want it to slip away, because the way things work is if someday we started getting bigger charter and other things in here and we got the numbers up, we automatically move to the larger status, build a bigger facility, and they have to fund it rather than the city funding or the airport funding. So we need to come up with some mechanisms to try to find some ways to pay for this. And we just need to raise it to your expectation that we may need to ask our city council, since this commission reports to the city council of Palm Springs, to try to make a valley-wide effort to see if there is some funding mechanism we can put together to start to develop this. At the same time, we start to look at some basic layouts and some plans and some other things so that we can, I don't want to be quoted, keep them at bay while we figure out what we're doing. Because I guess I better shut up.
Yeah. Did I understand?
What I was going to say about it.
Did I understand that we must have submitted a plan by a certain time? Is that kind of the way that was?
We hope that's what it was.
Okay.
We're trying to read between the lines. You know, the first statements to us were build a new facility, you know, tomorrow, we'll be in it on Thursday,
And we'll sign it.
and you know, we'll stay here, otherwise we're gonna pull the guy. We've got past that now. Barry started talking to him and I quit talking to him, so they're not cooperating.
One question, this picture here, which is, I assume their approved design, number 2 or whatever, that is not big enough to do the real terminal facility.
That is something like maybe a 3,000 square foot building or something like that, whereas in order to get a full-blown FIS facility at our airport, you've got to build a 30,000 square foot building.
Is it not?
It's a $10 million investment.
Yeah. Wow.
That's why we didn't just run out and do it, and hope that they would come like Ontario did, and there's this scrap sitting down there right now.
They have no international. Okay, Commission, we need some guidance here. The staff would like to be able to take to the Commission, to the Council, a request that they look into this and ask other cities to help join in funding and thinking about the consequences of not having this and the consequences of doing it and getting it at least started on paper. Yeah.
Is there any way to consider some kind of bond issue to do this, to get it started?
There's all kinds of things to be considered, but a bond issue could be rather different. I mean, because of our agreements with the airlines, the airport could not float a bond issue to do this. Doesn't mean that the Valley Cities couldn't, a Valley City couldn't do it, a Joint Powers Authority couldn't do it. There's all kinds of organizations that could float a bond issue. Somebody, I mean, $3 million to some folks, as far as their cash flow isn't that critical. Somebody could make a loan to be able to do it. I mean, there's all kinds of variety of things to do.
There's also the users.
There's the
We know
users.
that Scottsdale was in a similar situation where they were going to actually shut down their operation, and the users actually came together and decided that they didn't want that to happen, and so they helped fund a portion of it.
Users
Yeah.
and
Larry?
group enough to do that.
Just two comments. One, I'm very skeptical that other ports of entry, Calexico, Brownfield, are going to be able to afford to do anything. I mean, that's bare bones down there. The second comment is from a user's point of view, a charter who's coming in here. With a fixed facility, you have to taxi up to that, shut down the engines, go through customs, start up the engines, and then go back to the FBO. Now, that's really inconvenient.
It doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. The FBOs could provide shuttle services, and the aircraft could park there and be left there, and they could come back and get them later.
The most convenient would be, as is probably done now, is the inspector goes to the FBO and meets the
That's
aircraft.
the way we're doing it now, however.
And from a user's point of view, that's the best. It may not be the best from the customs individual. but- So I guess what I'm hearing is that they've asked for the impossible, and now we've said we can't quite do that, and now we're discussing it. And my guess is that there's some flexibility according to how you play.
They set the bar very high. I think we can
So
work
good
around it.
assessment.
Yes, Robert?
Question, we had any dialogue with the folks in Great Falls, Montana, to find out what went wrong up there?
I haven't had any dialogue directly with them, but I have had dialogue with the chief inspector, and basically it was because they did not provide them the facility that would
It would be
accommodate.
kind of interesting to
the
get their spin on it, two sides of
Yes,
it.
we will.
Secondly, is this a standard part number, you order a part number and you get this plan and it has to be like this, or is this?
Basically, it's a technical standard handout that's about this thick, and this general aviation processing is basically the section that applies to us as a user fee airport, since that's primarily what we're doing, and this is the standard for that type of
It has to
facility.
be just that layout, or it could be round and whatever?
No, it doesn't, that's just a guideline.
The reason I ask, I hear, I'm sure you all have ads on the radio and also in the newspaper these days for half-price sales on prefab steel buildings. And that was something to keep in mind, half-price anything, if it was a...
Heck, I think the
Yes, my
Indians will be
attention.
ready to give up the tent in about 6 months. Borrow that.
Well, we haven't exhausted all of our options yet. We're still looking at various things, so we may be back with some ideas for you. But right now, it's still going to result in needing funding, no matter what we do. So we wanted to
Yeah,
go
well,
ahead and get
that's
this
the
thing
reality. We're going to have to do it or lose our entire customs ability and ability in the future. So, any more comments
Right.
before we move on? Bill?
Yeah, coming from a poor city like Palm Desert, I find it hard. I think I would have a hard sell trying to convince the council to spend, we talk about $5 million to get 200 planes to come to Palm Springs. I don't believe they'd ever pencil out on the bottom to prove that.
I think it's probably closer to 3 minutes.
I heard 10 hit the,
Well, that's the big one. That's the big one.
That's when we get our funding.
I assume this is a...
excuse me, just for you, I think Al said 5 million.
No, I think it's
Actually, I said
3.
2.5 to 3 million
Oh.
for and if we're going to build a facility, we should build it to accommodate at least an aircraft that has 30 passengers, not for, the smaller aircraft. And then Al said 10 million for a full FIS facility, which is 30,000 square feet.
This will be an interim
Yes.
facility until sometime later.
But 5,000 square feet would be the initial one, did you say?
That's the idea that we're shooting for.
That's 5 million.
Mike?
About how many other airports in the country are in this box?
All the user fee airports are
That would
have
be
to live
what?
up to the standard.
About 30?
There's roughly about 28, I believe, total.
It's a great designation if we can hold on to it. Go ahead.
Actually, though, you're assuming that they don't meet the standard they were sitting out in the trailer. I haven't been down to Mexico,
It's right next to, it's part of the FBO.
but maybe because they don't have big aircraft going in their commercial aviation, they don't have to worry about that.
That's true, a lot of the facilities are already, meeting the standards,
Right.
so they won't be drastically impacted.
Another question.
One more.
Okay, looking at the schematic of the location here, I realize this is just a plan.
Sure.
But I have a problem with it being right next to the roadway. These two site smaller craft up here next to the road, and this one with the bridge over the entrance road. I mean, what's with the, are we having
Well,
security?
the advantage of having it there is it has both public access and airside access,
Yeah.
which is what they're trying to accommodate, as well as by using the one up toward the runway in there, there's some existing ramp area there already that could possibly be used
I
for.
mean, but, general aviation is, doesn't include just a Cessna flying around.
Sure.
This is a big business, and so we're not concerned about a plane driving out in front of them and blowing up, in a car or something. You know what I mean?
This is really, really preliminary, so
Okay.
don't get set on it, because it's
Okay,
not
so-
what we're trying to, the only reason we're bringing this to you right now is this is a major problem with major inflexibility that we have seen from U.S. Customs so far. And we don't know if it's driven by regulation, we don't know if it's driven by Washington, we're trying to figure that all out. But it's important for us to get this, the last thing I want is next week to come back and say, we weren't able to work something out and they pulled the darn thing out of here and you guys didn't even know about it. And we need to bring it not just to our council, but the whole valley, because this is not just a request to try to service 300, 250 general aviation aircraft. This is to maintain the port of entry status that we have. There's a big difference.
All right, any other discussion? I entertain a motion to go to the city council with this request and start down that process. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Carries. All right, next item. Airline incentive program. Mr. Incentive.
I'll make this as brief as possible.
Oh my gosh.
We had, in fiscal year 2003, an air service incentive award criteria that was adopted by this commission and the city council, which authorized $50,000, $25,000 to each airline that initiated some sort of service that met the qualifying factors. We had two participants in the program, both Horizon Air and Delta met those criteria, and we have worked with them over their marketing program to spend the $25,000 that they received as part of the program for their summer air service that is being provided to both Seattle and Salt Lake City. What's before you now is getting our ahead of the schedule and making sure we're on time with some things, is the fiscal year 04 air service incentive criteria, in which we've upped it to $100,000 of total monies, which potentially is 4 carriers taking advantage of the program at $25,000 apiece. So the level per carrier has not changed. And it is all to continue the incentive criteria of marketing dollars for purposes of new service initiated by a carrier. It's consistent with last year's program. The airlines were very excited about the program, obviously with 2 of them taking advantage of the program, and it's working very well. We have also continued the working relationship with the CBA as well as Palm Springs Tourism on getting some of their marketing dollars to help further supplement the program when we do get the announcements by new carriers. That's worked well, as well as the City of Indian Wells has now committed to be part of the program and has ponied up some dollars towards doing this in joint marketing effort with the airport on new carrier service when it meets our criteria here. In terms of, I'm sorry?
Thank you, Dan.
If you're not spending on the tennis, so you can spend it on the airport. That's good.
How about 600,000?
So, I missed whatever comment went
Well,
back and
we were
forth.
just
Just leave it alone.
complimenting Dan for good work and thought maybe since they're gonna drop out of the life program, we could have the whole 600,000.
But the overall program before you is so that we can get something in front of the city council to get it formally adopted, as we do have meetings already calendared with the airlines. And we'd like to be able to tell the airlines that the program is back again, it's in full swing, and get some of them to hopefully take advantage of the program. It was a definite enticement for them to make some of the decisions that they did make about the summer service this year in moving forward, because they do not have individual marketing budgets for dealing with specific routes. The airlines have cut back. Their marketing programs now are more focused on the broad overall carrier image and not an individual route. But their marketing departments just love the program when they find out that they have monies available to take advantage of and promote the new air service that's being offered.
All right, Richard, that
Chairman, I'd like to-
was very short and succinct. We appreciate that. Questions?
I'd like to propose that we recommend the approval of this $100,000 level. Seek
Second.
approval by the
Seconded.
city
Any
council.
other comments or questions?
Yeah.
I wanted to add one before we get rolling. You have to look around and see how effective this program was and our department has been. 2 years ago, the airlines didn't know we were here, and if you said something to them, they said, oh, okay, that's nice. Now we are absolutely, they are beating on the door. So I think that really speaks well to the people and to a program like this, which is not a great big program, but it's one that just focuses on the issues. So I'm very pleased about the whole process.
You forgot one big thing. We were subsidizing American
And on
Airlines.
top of it, we're throwing money, I'm sorry, we were giving money away. Any other comments? Yes, Larry.
As we all are, I'm concerned about the increasing economic pressure on airlines. And is this program that, such that the money is not paid out until the flight is initiated?
The flight has to be available in the reservation system, which is what causes it to be acknowledged as a new flight. And then from thenceforth, I work directly with the air carrier on what the marketing ad will be, when it will run, how many times, what frequency, and what publication. And they have to send us the invoice to pay. We do not pay the carrier ahead of schedule.
My concern is that if any of this money is put up front,
No,
then the airline goes to Chapter 11 or something, that's gone.
no, that is not how this works.
I'd like to see it when the airplane takes off and lands here. Then we pay it.
Well, it's kind of key to have that marketing program in place ahead of schedule so that the
So it
airline
will
can actually
take
get some
off when we
awareness
land
of the
here.
flight.
Robert.
Comment, Richard, I've noticed an increased amount of advertising in the local TV and news media. Particularly one about Horizon Air, is that the direct result of this program?
Yes, it is. That Horizon Air ad is the one that we will be paying the bill for. I worked with Dan Russo of Horizon Air's marketing team for that ad, and they will be sending us the bill for that, and then we will pay that up to
Similar ads up
$25,000.
in Seattle and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
Good.
It is running in Seattle, by the way, somebody called me and told me that, so. Any other questions? If not, the recommendation is that we take this program to the city council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Passes. Updates. Richard, were you going to do your thing, or is that part of yours? You look at me like I knew what I was talking about.
For those who hadn't seen it. That's all.
Okay. Oh, after, okay. Because I wanted to say something in there somewhere. Okay. Airport construction, Mr. Booth?
Yes, we can read down real quick through these updates, and then we'll adjourn the meeting, and then anybody who wants to see that tape of the spots, Richard will run that. On airport construction, if you didn't see it when you drove in, you're blind.
Or lost.
Or lost. It's underway. We have been tearing at it, and despite it looking like a wasteland out there right now, we are actually constructing. There's a lot of underground stuff going in. And so it's moving well. We're doing testing today on the fabric roof that goes in. Has some large helical anchors that have to be physically screwed into the ground. They're out testing for that today so that they can manufacture those anchors. There's a lot of stuff to go on, but it's moving quickly now. and we'll continue to work through it and get it completed.
Does it look like it's gonna be on time at this point?
We hope so.
Nice, wow, okay.
We hope so. Airport security, you know, I mean, we're working on all kinds of things there that kind of ties to the next one with the TSA's offices. Mike's got that out on the street right now to bid. Bids the 15th of May. As soon as we get an acknowledgement from the TSA that they're actually going to lease it from us, we'll ask the council to award it. At the same time, we're pushing on this EDS, Explosive Detection System facility, which will be out behind the ticket counter area instead of in the lobby if we are successful. We have worked well with TSA to ascertain that the equipment change is available. We're in the first phase of a request for proposal for a design build of a metal building to go out behind to cover some of the area, as well as the procurement of some construction help to close in some areas out there. All racing towards a fall deadline to have things completed so that we no longer have our explosive detection systems in the middle of the lobby and we have it out back where it belongs. All of that is going to take minor miracles for it all to occur, so the staff's going to keep banging at it to get it done. But it's going to take a bunch of really fast actions in order for things to occur. There is a new letter of intent program with TSA for EDS facilities. However, it's rather focused on big facilities and fully automated inline systems, which we aren't either of those things. However, it was interesting yesterday at a hearing, representatives from TSA were questioned on why they are not focusing on helping small airports. So we're going to hold out some hope that there might be some help out there, but at this point it looks like it's going to be on our nickel in order to get this facility done. And even though we may philosophically not think that's appropriate, that the Fed should be paying for this through the LOI program, in my mind, the customer inconvenience that's being suffered by having it in the lobby is not helping us and will not help us in the future, so we need to proceed. That's where we are.
Other? Any other? Okay. Added starters. Okay. Commission requests and reports. I have a couple, 3 we'll run by, and then you guys can add yours. I wanted to ask Ken Sherman to, in 2 sentences or less, or maybe 3, to tell us about the Bermuda Desert Regional Thermal Recession.
I was there when it started, and they were going to, it reminded me of the little engine that could. They're really pushing for private business. They've had a major expansion. Millionaire apparently is expanding down there, and they're putting in a new runway that will handle 737s. So they're looking at a major expansion. They're really pushing for the corporate market and for especially the charter market. Now, I don't know what that means as far as whether they need any other inspections on there. Obviously, it can't be anything that doesn't originate here in the U.S. But they definitely look like they're expanding, and they apparently have the money to do that.
Do they have a fire department down there?
No.
Yes.
No, yes.
Station 39.
Is that guy on the red handle?
It's on site.
They don't have ARF services.
Okay, they don't know ARF, they have a fire department close. Okay, just curious, that was the question I had. I want to congratulate Dan. He is, on May 15th, will be the recipient of, he and his wife, of a very prestigious award. And since he's been a long-time commissioner here, I just thought it was appropriate. I'm going to pass it around. It's the recipient of the Founders Day Award, both to Dan and his wife, BJ. That's May 15th, this is? Yeah. And this is a true honor, and I just thought I'd pass it around. Before you go, I don't want to, before you go, do you have anything to say? Because I don't want the TSA not to have a chance to talk.
His name is Lee Corman, by the way. He's the
I'm sorry.
assistant federal security director.
And he was sneaking out.
In the record.
Just realized I'm late for a conference call. I'm filling in for Tom Anthony, who's instructing at our academy in Oklahoma City, or the FAA's academy in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Glad to be
Well,
part.
things seem to be going fairly well for all the, now that it slows down, it's a little easier to look at the problems, but I can't wait for that third lane. I think that'll make a big change.
We're anxious to go there too.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks, Lee. I don't want you guys not to have a moment to be able to bring stuff to us.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. And the last thing I have before we address the commissioners, Barry, on the Navigator program, which I believe has been exceptionally well received and exceptionally successful, is there something we can do to kind of recognize that, or get the paper to run a little article about it? Because that is a unique program. There are, what, 50 local citizens who come out once a week to help people get through the airport. And they do it willingly, some of them with great finesse. I'm amazed. It's a very, very good program, and I think it's a sort of community program that ought to get some attention, a perception of something and something, and maybe some press time possibly, because it's an amazing program, and not too many people are aware of it.
Our plan is to do that when we kick it off again next year. Our Navigators actually ended May 1st this
Right.
year, and they'll be starting up again in October. We're having a congratulatory appreciation luncheon for them on Friday.
Okay.
And so we're
Well, maybe
steadily
we could-
building it, and next year we're hoping to have a lot more press coverage of it.
Yeah, it's just, it has worked for them. So, gosh, you could say a lot of things, but it has worked well. That's the major thing. All right, other commission requests and reports. Robert?
Sure, I'm glad you looked through this airline schedule handout that was in the packet. I was amazed. I really had not fully comprehended the number of flights and cities served at this moment in time. I think it's largely due to staff's activity and this group, and I think they are to be commended. I know you brought that up a minute ago, but I'd like to add a second motion.
And we can never say enough about how well this has worked. Those of you who were here 3 years ago, you see the incredible difference that's happened. So, thanks to staff. We appreciate your hard work. Other comments, Bill?
I went to the open house in Thermo 2. It was very
did you?
impressed.
I didn't see you there, Bill.
I didn't see you
I like the top flight golf balls they gave away.
And I'm a little concerned City of Palm Desert would be honoring a foreigner since he moved in as well.
I also went there, and I got there after the festivities, but there was enough food left to make it worthwhile. Thanks, Eric.
Any other comments from the commissioners? If not, I'll get back to the agenda, which I can't find at this moment. Yours.
Right here.
Thank you. City council actions. They are published on the yellow pages. I don't think that's any problem. Correspondence, the letter from Bert resigning. Hopefully he will be here, and those of you who will be leaving at this end of this year, we'll have some little special thing go on next time.
Also, the correspondence regarding Millionaire.
I don't have that.
It was in the handout.
Oh, it's in the handout.
Because it came.
I don't get that far. All right.
Again, voted in the top 50 FBOs in
That
America.
is incredible, and that's wonderful. Congratulations, Eric. You do run a very good shop over there. I'm just going to say that, because every time I go over there, people are happy and they seem to be moving around, and everybody's comfortable being there. So,
I like Penny myself.
yeah, well, I love that place. So you guys are doing a great job. Any other questions? I'm going to just show you this, which I thought we might have a moment with Richard's group thing. This is a new design of our little name tag. One of the things that the brand group said is, those of you who come to the airport and talk and mingle with the people need to have some sort of identification that tells you, besides just says Chuck Shield Airport Commissioner, or it doesn't say airport on it, just says Commissioner, something that has a little more identification. Because if you'll walk down that line with those people and say, it's about 10 minutes from here, is there anything I can do to help? Just the concern that you show as a commissioner here can make a big difference. They are looking at even doing things like having Sunkist give everybody 2 oranges on the way out, and lots of different things to try and bring that feeling that you're welcome here and you're saying goodbye here is important too. So we have 2 samples that we've done. We're gonna wait until we get the board change, or the commission changed before we sit down and actually do it. Some of you may not be interested. Unfortunately, these little suckers are expensive. So some of you may not be interested in it, and we'll let Margie know. It's just a little more identifiable as to who you are and what's going on. There's 2 types of badges. One's a magnetic one, and one is a clip-on. So
We just switched to the magnetic type for the planning commission, and they sure save a lot of holes in your clothes.
yeah,
Highly recommend it.
yeah, chase maker you can't wear.
And they stay on better.
They do. So I just wanted you to see these. We had 2 made, one for myself and one for John, just to kind of get started. I'm going to pass them around, and if you have any comments and changes we should make, then we will do that. Marjorie.
Might interfere with your pitch.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
That's why I have the snap on. Thank you.
We'll make it happen.
John,
Yes, Marjorie.
just one thing on the parking cards. I talked to John Becker. He says they'll honor the cards even though they've
Okay.
expired. And we should have them by the next meeting.
In case those of you who have ever looked at your little card that expired last month, that, not that they put people in jail, but it's like,
A year ago.
Will they let us out the gate?
well, yeah, one time passed, but we will have new passes shortly. All right. Staff requests and reports? Yes, Barry, I'm sorry, but Barry speaking.
I just wanted to announce to the commissioners that the fire department is conducting some auto extrication training this month. And the reason why that should be of interest to you is our training facility is adjacent or at the airport. And the 12 wrecked automobiles are visible. And you may get some complaints, concerns, or questions. And we will have 12 wrecked automobiles.
I thought that was your employee parking.
No. And it isn't the new Hartford vehicles either. But anyway, they'll be there for about 3 to 4 weeks maximum, and we'll get them out. Thank you.
When do we get
Speaking of
the
it, yeah, speaking of it, when is the new
We will be
super-
going to Oshkosh middle of June, and they should be delivered by the latter part of June.
You're not
Great.
gonna drive them out from there.
No. That's there to be delivered here on the Lowboys.
Wow, very good.
All right.
Finally, that is such a great improvement for us. Any other staff requests and reports? Let's see, Jane, did you have
I
something?
just have a comment. Is this going to be the light blue on there? Because that's harder to see for people.
Okay.
It's like they haven't engraved it deep enough to get to the white. It's
Okay.
not a really good job if you want white to show up.
Okay, good point.
I'll tell
Marjorie, let's try and get that brighter.
Dig deeper.
Snapper.
Is there any chance for a blank that has a logo on it in the background? or
Well,
is it
Marjorie
just
said
something-
there is. I'm concerned that we're gonna start filling it up with so much stuff that all of a sudden it doesn't become readable. You know, people are going, well, yeah, okay. So she said that's a possibility. I sort of said, well, I think we got a lot of data on there. Maybe that's good enough. So if you all feel we have to have a logo, we'll work on it.
I can bring one that has one.
All right,
that does
we'll
it.
bring that, look at it next time. Any other questions, staff reports? We there? Oh, almost got it by.
2 quick things.
Sure.
First of all, you need to know that the TSA has given us notice that the memorandum of understanding that we have to provide law enforcement services at the checkpoint is terminated as of the end of May, and we will no longer have a mandatory presence of a police officer standing at the checkpoint, and then we will go back to the prior 9/11 program of having our officers on call to respond to the checkpoint if necessary.
What does that mean to us?
It means that we'll no longer have to use overtime to have an officer stand at the checkpoint, and the TSA will no longer pay us for that.
Okay. Yes.
Just wondered, you read all about this cutback in TSA inspectors.
Yes.
How is this going to affect?
Our airport is supposedly losing 18 screeners. I don't know how many, but that's been appealed by TSA to see if they can't change their mind on that. So,
Are they still considering the summer switch program in Alaska?
they already have.
Okay.
There are people who have gone already to there and the Yellowstone to work in those locations during the summer and in the
That's very logical. Any other staff requests?
The other thing is just the issue of the appointment of someone to serve with the planning commission, and I
Yes.
think
I would like to ask Gary Luters if you would do that. I don't know if you read that part of the letter here. We need the planning commission and the city council actually are doing an overall master plan for the city. They want the airport to have somebody there who can say, well, you know, this is the airport and this is what we're doing. So I would ask that you do it. If somebody else wants to do it, we can discuss it and you guys can arm wrestle. Whatever it takes to get there.
He wins.
So Gary, if you'd be willing to do that, I would appreciate having you do that. Okay? Any other questions? My goodness, we finally got through it. Now we stand adjourned to watch movies. See you next month.
Go for it.
He's falling asleep.
Watch movies.